again, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for Friday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy, meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting today's show. Up first, hazardous weather graphic. We'll start down here over the southern southeast coast. That's where the only warnings are. Winter storm warning, or heavy snow warning, or winter storm warning for heavy snow here for well, from the east side, well, we'll start over here toward Ketchikan, Metlakatla, up over toward Hyder. That's out for tonight, and looking for 8 to 11 inches of snow with winds gusting to 40 miles an hour. So some of that could blow around and really reduce visibilities there. And that's until 6 a.m. Saturday morning as a storm rolls on through tonight. And out for the east side of the Prince of Wales Island area there, also a winter storm warning. But that's for a little bit less in the way of snow, 6 to 10 inches of snow there. And then the advisory here for even less snow than that, that's the outer coastline there, Prince of Wales Island. And so snowfall amounts there are obviously going to be less than in the warning areas there, but still could be 2 to 4 inches or so. And then there's a wind chill advisory out here for northeast Prince William Sound and Thompson Pass tonight into about 9 a.m. tomorrow morning for wind chills down to 55 degrees below zero with gusty northeast winds, 35 to 50 miles an hour or so. Again, that's northeast Prince William Sound, especially on up toward Thompson Pass. And that same sort of pattern going on here over the northern interior. You can see northwest coast, Kotzebue, Selawik Valley, Kobuk Valley, eastward to Fort Yukon, and into the Brooks Range and the eastern north slope. Those are all areas under the influence of wind chill advisories tonight, tomorrow, in some cases through tomorrow night into early Sunday. That includes the western Arctic coast there and the north side of the Seward Peninsula, Shishmaref. Wind chills running 35 to 55 degrees below zero through most of the weekend actually in these areas, obviously in the windier areas. And that's going to again, probably won't see much change, but it will be kind of a variable wind pattern across this area. And for the satellite imagery, you can see the low pressure area spinning centered just south of Kodiak Island. That's the system that brought the 6+ inches of snow across the island overnight last night. Still some snow showers going on today, but that southeast flow pulling temperatures up towards freezing there at Kodiak State Airport. Cold air continues to dive south and then southeastward here from the Arctic on down, but not blasting down like it was the last couple of days, but still pretty breezy. Winds 40 miles an hour there, St. Lawrence Island, and continuous light snow. Not much in the way of accumulations. That back up into Tin City again, winds lighter there as well, but still seeing gusts, Point Hope, seeing gusts 40 miles an hour, and those winds about 45 miles an hour for St. Lawrence Island, and then even lighter here for the Pribilofs with the cold air all the way down well south of the Aleutians, off the chart there. So snowfall, as light as it is, falling in the form of snow here across much of the Aleutians. A little bit more action up there, Shelikof Strait, actually a buoy in Shelikof Strait reporting northeast winds 50 miles an hour in gusts, about 45 miles an hour gusts in Augustine Island. And it looks like some snow showers here in this, trying to get into the south coast of the Kenai Peninsula, a break, and then here's a big storm bringing the snow. They've already had about 2 to 4 inches across the southern panhandle as of 3 p.m. today. And again, this whole mess coming through overnight tonight will bring anywhere from 6 to 12 inches more snow up into the Misty Fjords and Hyder area. Otherwise, cold below zero over the interior, maybe a few flurries today up over the northeast, but generally pretty cold temperatures below zero all the way out to the southwest coast and a little offshore. Sleep mute, 42 degrees below zero this morning, one of the colder areas, and a little breezy, as I mentioned, the Brooks Range passes where the wind chill advisories are, less wind on the Arctic coast. Here's a storm coming up there toward the southern panhandle across Dixon Entrance. That tonight pulls northeastward, and by late tonight, look for the snow to end or go more showery, maybe some clearing. Another system gathering strength out here in the southern Gulf of Alaska, northeast Pacific. That's going to develop and move to the northeast tomorrow, and that'll spread another round of precipitation in, and that's going to collide with the strong northerly winds that are gusting currently to about 50 miles an hour out of the north through Lynn Canal at Eldred Rock, and that's going to produce an area of snow here over the central maybe Juneau on down to the south there, possibly mixing with rain at sea level around Dixon Entrance, kind of right on the edge there. But so another round of precipitation rolling in after the one tonight and a short break tomorrow. And snow showers in the Gulf of Alaska off the coast. Some could linger up along the coast around Yakutat to Cape Yakataga. Maybe some flurries north side of the Alaska range there. Otherwise, mostly clear and cold over the remainder of the state. Low pressure, weak low pressure out over the Bering Sea. Just look for snow showers. The jet stream is down to the south with all the cold air that's been coming southward. So really no big storms here out west through the weekend. We have low pressure again on Sunday lingering here up over the northeast or eastern Arctic coast. So chance of snow, northern panhandle, less chance down south. And again, another round of possible snow showers for Kodiak Island. Probably not as heavy if this does develop as what you saw last night. And clear and cold with less wind over interior Alaska, and snow showers with, again, weak systems out over the Bering Sea. Moving on to the low temperatures tonight, 15 to 35 degrees below zero in some cases, maybe even 40 to 45 below, depending on in the clear wind sheltered areas, and 15 to 25 below for the Arctic coast. And down below zero again for the Susitna Valley. We had temperatures in the Susitna Valley this morning in the 20 to 25 degree below zero range. Probably could see that again tonight, and generally below zero, shade below zero. Cook Inlet, Kenai Peninsula, and looks like milder 24 for Kodiak, in the 20s to lower 30s for the Aleutians, southeast coast, teens north and mid-20s out toward the coastline. Highs tomorrow, single number, south central Alaska, below zero north and west of the Alaska range, and the lows for Sunday morning shaping up like this, again, mid-teens here over the northern panhandle, about 17 Yakutat, 14 there at, say, Haines, and then mid to upper 20s to near 30 as you head south, and around back down into the teens for Kodiak, and definitely below zero again, anywhere 5 to 25 below for south central Alaska, 25 to 35 to 40 below here, northern interior areas, and well below zero here, as you can see, right out to the coastline. Macoriac, minus 11, 16 at St. Paul, so even colder Sunday morning, and highs staying below zero, even along the southwest coast here, even in Bristol Bay, and then into the 20s to near 30 for the Alaska Peninsula, and a shade above zero for south central Alaska.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Moving on to first line weather graphic here for Saturday morning. Got some IFR, that system out over the west central Aleutians, gradually moving eastward. VFR, though, moving into the Fox Islands. Marginal VFR, Pribilofs, Alaska Peninsula, right along old Togiak Bay to Cape Newnam, then off to the northwest. Is VFR holding here along the southwest coast, Yukon Delta, Norton Sound, Seward Peninsula, and the Chukchi Sea. Just some marginal VFR there on the north slope. Some of that slipping on down into the eastern Koyukuk Valley, there down to about the Yukon River. And then some marginal VFR here, upper Tanana Valley, 40 Mile Country. Actually, maybe back over to Healy and possibly into Nana, and then along the Alaska Range and into the Copper River Basin to the north, and then VFR, Prince William Sound, Cook Inlet, Susitna Valley, Matanuska Valley, and VFR all the way down the southeast coast. A little bit of marginal stuff here right along the coast of Prince of Wales Island. See in the afternoon that increases and advances with IFR developing over towards Stewart and Hyder with the expected snow, and marginal VFR slipping up across Wrangell, Petersburg, and near Juneau, probably not quite, and Sitka and the northern areas in VFR over to Yakutat. And for Sunday morning, IFR possible here over the, well, about just north of Tok and Northway to about Eagle, and then marginal VFR around that, a little more extensive, but nothing too serious. VFR, the interior down to the Prince William Sound, North Gulf Coast. Maybe some marginal VFR possibly there in the Barren Islands, Kodiak VFR, Panhandle VFR, and looks like Yakutat right there, IFR. Otherwise, some IFR here, into the north side of the Alaska Peninsula there, and maybe the Fox Islands to Atka. Otherwise, marginal VFR for the Bering Sea and the Aleutians, and really not too bad of a day. And in the afternoon, still holding pretty good here. Possible marginal VFR there along the Yukon River area, and otherwise really nice. Arctic coast all the way down into the North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound. And we've got marginal VFR, though, up close to the Kenai Peninsula. In fact, it looks like it's even maybe into Kachemak Bay. Eastward, Yakutat, northern panhandle, marginal, VFR to the south, IFR possible along the Alaska Peninsula, and those chances increase as you head on down the coastline there to Unimak and Unalaska Island. Otherwise, VFR from Adak out to Shemya, as well as St. Lawrence Island. And for passes tomorrow, Anaktuvik and Atigun both looking good. VFR conditions, maybe a few clouds around, especially in the morning. Lake Clark and Merrill, though, VFR. And for rainy, good VFR. Windy, VFR. And for Isabel, though, looks like it'll be marginal VFR, the pass on to the north entrance, southern entrance on down, VFR. And for Mentasta, VFR, possible marginal VFR on the northern entrance. And that's about it. Otherwise, Tanita, VFR, and Portage, another VFR day through that pass. Chilkoot and White, definitely VFR. Could be a little turbulent, especially early on, due to the outflow winds, northerly winds, north-northeast winds. And for the freezing level here, not much left. We got 2,000 feet way down toward Vancouver Island. And otherwise, now we have the surface into the Gulf of Alaska, now even south of much of the interior, just cutting across, say, between Port Alexander and Sitka on down across into Dixon Entrance, and then from about Adak, kind of hugging the Aleutian chain there on out to the west. Icing, not really anything significant. Possible light stuff here, upper Tanana Valley 40-mile country, and also out here over the Aleutians. Nothing really significant there from Adak and Atka to not quite Nikolsky. And maybe a better chance here, a little more moisture to work with over the southeast coast. Could be probably mixed icing, possibly isolated, moderate at worst, above about 5,000 feet. And the jet stream here, basically a trough, cold trough over just about all of Alaska and northern Canada. Several centers here, one coming right over the valley tomorrow, and the jet stream, of course, down to the south of the entire state. 9,000 feet showing surface low here over south central Alaska. East-northeast winds on the north side of that, turning northerly out here to the west, about 35 knots, but diminishing, then coming around from the northwest at up to 40 knots across the Alaska Peninsula. And 3,000 feet about the same, but a little lighter on the winds, but generally the same direction. So taking a look at turbulence, could be probably light to isolated moderate chop for the Brooks Range, and Iliamna, Kamishak Bay area down to Kodiak Island, and along the Alaska Range, and down into the southern panhandle with that system.
When you think of a national park, you probably envision wide open natural spaces undisturbed by human activity. There are indeed such places, but even in some of the most remote areas of a place like Kenai Fjords National Park in Alaska, the mark of man is present. Marine debris is a menace to the farthest reaches of our globe, and even designated national park lands are not immune. In the summer of 2009, the Resurrection Bay Conservation Alliance, a grassroots conservation organization based in Seward, Alaska, decided to do something about the marine debris fouling the beaches of Kenai Fjords National Park. Marine debris coordinator Tim Johnson had first-hand experience with the issue.
The summer before, my wife and I, Michelle, had done a paddle from Seward, sea kayak paddle from Seward to Homer. Really, our eyes were open to some areas that we didn't realize there was so much accumulation. It was very deceiving up front. You couldn't really get a feel for the extent and impact of it. You've got this nice high tide line that's quite pristine, and you really don't get a picture for the impact, the amount of debris in that area until you get behind those storm berms. You get back into the lagoons and the vegetation around those lagoons. And then you see the absolute extent back into that veg and how intertwined and enmeshed these decades of trash deposition. So we were just appalled by that and said we got to get something together on a larger scale.
The Resurrection Bay Conservation Alliance is a local nonprofit community organization, and they have been instrumental in helping the Park Service obtain funding to to get boats, larger boats to help move the debris, and they get volunteer labor and organize the work trips. And so it's really a partnership between the Park Service and the community to help get out and really get a project done that in and of itself any one group couldn't do on their own.
Most of that trash was baggable. However, there were large items, huge, piles of hauser line, for example, that we just had to hoist up onto the boat.
The volunteers didn't just bag, haul, and hoist the garbage, but also carefully recorded what types of debris were collected.
In many ways, the debris itself is a resource. Archaeologists use middens, the trash heaps, as a way of analyzing past cultures. And in one sense, marine debris is a form of a midden. It's a trash heap that left for the future would be something that people could use to analyze our culture. It may not say the best things about our culture or everything that we want, but we need to be able to document what we've done so that we can preserve that legacy, make sure that we as a society don't forget what we've been doing.
We had two larger categories of marine debris that we picked up. Commercial fishing means like, say, gill nets, large hauser lines, anything that would be associated with more of a commercial fishing scale. And then the second category was more recreational fishing and household, which would be general plastics, things like that. So we had about a 75% of the commercial fishing marine debris element, and about 25% of the recreational and household further out the bay. And we had the exact opposite the closer we got to Seward. Within the bay, it was about 25% commercial fishing versus 75% recreational fishing and household.
The trash is not just unsightly for park visitors, but also poses threats to wildlife and marine habitat.
Really one of the larger issues now that you go to this plastic that can really get into the food web and affect the food web differently than something like glass.
These substances, for instance, all these polystyrene blocks that are breaking down into all these little crumbly bits are further breaking down on a microscopic level, and how much of an impact that has, in this ecosystem is yet to be determined, but I think it's got pretty high potential.
Well known that sea turtles will eat plastic bags floating in the water. They look like jellyfish to a sea turtle, and obviously a plastic bag doesn't go well in the digestive system of a turtle. Albatross will see small pieces of plastic floating on the surface and think they're small fish and other food sources and eat that in their stomachs, especially in some of the northwestern Hawaiian Islands. They'll find dead albatross that have starved to death with a full stomach, and it's full of pieces of plastic.
We're affecting our local areas this way, but we need to be thinking about it from more of a state and global international scale. And most importantly, to try and focus on prevention of it coming in the first place. Because we're just going to see this continuing, to build up on our beaches unless we're able to get a little bit more of an approach on prevention on the front end.
Marine debris is really a global problem, in all the oceans, and there are many different sources. Global shipping is one. Fishing debris from commercial fishing, recreational boating activity, activity on land, stuff blowing off land, washing down streams, people just throwing stuff on the shore.
Though the problem can seem overwhelming, Johnson remains upbeat about making a positive difference.
No, you gotta start locally. You gotta take control of what you can do, and make something with that, and try and move on from there.
Overall, more than 9 tons of debris was removed from the beaches of Kenai Fjords National Park and transported back to Seward to be deposited in a landfill.
People gave a lot to the project in order to make it happen. That was awesome. One of the most amazing experiences I've ever had, being able to put that large of a group of volunteers together, dedicated volunteers to put that much effort and give that much time and pull all the different agencies together to see it all happen was incredible. It was incredible. Yeah, very fulfilling experience.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Looking at the sea ice analysis here, continuing to expand southward and westward here. Some thin areas there up off the western Arctic coast up in this area, and it'll continue to grow for the next 5-6 days. Actually, it'll begin shifting more westward than southward as the winds become more easterly. So we could see some areas, Polinias opening up anywhere along the west coast here, possibly, and that would be about the only change. Coastal water forecast, small craft advisories on the south coast tomorrow there, Prince Wales Island, southwest 25, 12-foot seas. Small craft advisories also for Clarence Strait, southeast 25 knots, 5-foot seas, and small craft advisories for Lynn Canal. Those winds trending downward in the afternoon to 25 knots, seas 5 feet, and Clarence Strait north at 20. Otherwise, east-northeast 15 on the north coast. Outlook for Sunday, west winds 20 knots, north and central coast, seas 9 to 12 feet. South coast there, northwest 25, and seas at 14 feet. Light winds for Clarence Strait, southerlies at 10 knots, and 20-knot winds from the north with gale force gusts for Stevens Passage, and 20-knot winds for Lynn Canal, 4-foot seas. Prince William Sound, north at 20 tomorrow, seas 4 feet. And eastern North Gulf Coast, early on, northeast 15 sustained, but gust to 40 knots. They're coming out of like the Copper River Delta area. Otherwise, northwest 15 for the western North Gulf Coast. Small craft advisories, Barren Islands, Kamishak Bay, 25 to 30 knot winds from the northwest there. Light winds for Cook Inlet, northeast at 10, seas 2 feet. That continues through Sunday for Cook Inlet. Winds light, northeast at 10, seas slight, northwest 30 for Kamishak Bay. And west 25 knot winds here for the Barren Islands and all of the North Gulf Coast. Seas running 6 to 8 feet, highest over here toward Middleton Island. Prince William Sound, northwest 25. Kodiak Island, tomorrow looking for lighter winds here in Chillicothe Strait, but still pretty brisk there at 30 knots out of the northwest, 25 knot small craft advisory winds. East side of Kodiak all the way down to Castle Cape, and for the Alaska Peninsula northwesterlies, 15 to 20. 5 to 7-foot seas, and Bristol Bay north at 15 with seas at 2 feet. Outlook for Sunday, Bristol Bay northeast winds at 20 knots, but seas only 2 feet, and north at 20 for the Bering Sea side of the peninsula here, 5-foot seas. South side, we've got small craft advisories, Cape Sarachev right up to Sitkinak, in through Chillicothe Strait, and the east side of Kodiak Island, 25 to 30 knot winds in those areas out of the west here for the Kodiak Island zones. And for the far western Aleutians, northeast at 20 tomorrow, and then picking up to about 25, Kiskadam, Chitka, Adak and Atka. Bering Sea side, north shore there, east at 20, Pacific side, southwest 20, and top side here, the eastern Aleutians, Go east 15 for Unmak Island, Unalaska Island there, top side west at 20, and south side, southwest 25 for both islands there with 9 to 8 foot seas. And then Sunday, lighter, a little more variable, Unalaska Island, north to northwest at 15, and then kind of variable 10 to 15 for Unmak Island. Light winds laying down to 15 knots for Adakanatka, and those 15-knot winds to about Kiska, and then it goes northeast 20 with 6 foot seas. Southwest coast tomorrow, still lighter winds and still northerly, 10 to 20 knots, northwest 15 for the Pribilofs. Small craft advisories there for, brisk wind advisories. Now the sea ice is in for St. Lawrence Island, north 25. Outlook for Sunday, northeast 20 there for St. Lawrence Island, 10 to 20 knot northerlies for the southwest coast, west 15 for the Pribilofs, St. Matthew Island, northeast at 20. Eastern Boulevard Sea Coast, really light winds, barely a breeze there at 5 knots, northwest 10 on the central coast, and starting to pick up here, 15 on the west side. Brisk wind advisories, Cape Beaufort all the way down to Wales, 30 knots from the northeast. Those fall back on Sunday to about 20 knots in those areas, east 10 on the west side, and really light winds east or so at only 5 knots for the central and eastern Boulevard Sea Coast. Tonight, wind chill advisories tonight, tomorrow, in some cases through tomorrow night and early Sunday here for the Koyukuk Valley areas up to the Brooks Range, and also a wind chill advisory for 55 degree below wind chills for northeast Bristol Bay and Thompson Pass for tonight. Otherwise, just nothing significant going on out west there. Diminishing winds, snow showers again tonight. Kodiak winds edging up, and this storm moving through, so the winter storm warning ends by 6 a.m. tomorrow morning for the southern panhandle, but yet another system brings another round of moisture in tomorrow, and yet another trough, but weaker on Sunday.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.